So I grew up in the Bay Area in Northern California. I've been there my whole life. Not now, but for the majority of my life growing up. And it was good, man. I mean, the Bay Area has a ton of different culture, different kinds of people. You always get to see every side of every opinion and everybody's view on life. And, you know, growing up, I had all kinds of different friends, all kinds of different ethnicities, you know, people from different backgrounds and completely different ways of life and different viewpoints of seeing things. It really teaches you that underneath anything that you have going on outwardly, the person that you are, you know, the core person that you are is really what matters, you know, and I learned that lesson really young as far as people that I was around and people that I was blessed to be friends and acquaintances with. So as far as music, I've been doing music for a long time, and you know, it's funny because I know sometimes in my music, you know, I may criticize the actual music that I make, which is hip hop or any other kind of music or secular artists or Hollywood or anything else. But the thing is, I was a secular artist. I was making regular, secular, worldly type of music. I always had messages in my music, though. I always liked rapping about God or talking about spiritual things when I would write, but there was always a lot of negative stuff that went along with that. As I got in my teenage years and was kind of got the music bug, and it's weird because it must have started really early, because I remember even a picture that I have around of when I was a little kid, like maybe 1 or 2 at my grandmother's house, and I was like pounding on this organ piano type thing she had, and you know, so I think the music was kind of in me early. It just, you know, it started manifesting itself when I was maybe a teenager. But as I started, you know, writing, and of course this is when you know, hip hop was becoming more popular, and I was just like, man, this would be a good outlet, you know. And so I started kind of writing music a little bit, and then, you know, production. When I got to my late teens, you know, I didn't know anybody that made beats, and you know, this is before people could kind of just send each other beats on the internet and everything else. So I was just like, man, I need some music, so why don't I just learn how to make beats, you know? So I just would start messing around with, you know, a little cheap keyboard I got and kind of learn how things go together. And later on, bought a bunch of equipment off one of my buddies and kind of learned how to use a sampler and some other things, and started getting the music out there. And really, I enjoyed producing just as much as I liked writing. So for me, I mean, it was a longer process because I had to do everything myself, but I was still having a lot of fun doing it and being creative and being in control. Like, I always liked being in control of my projects and my total situation. Like, I didn't like having to rely on other people if I didn't have to. You know, I didn't mind working with people and being a team player, but at the same time, I really liked kind of doing my own thing and being in charge of my own destiny, so to speak. So yeah, me and a couple of my friends, man, we started off doing music together around 18 or 19, and it was doing pretty good, man. We had some decent quality stuff, I think, for back then, and I think we were doing some things that were a little bit different and kind of had our own spin on stuff. We were sort of right in the middle of the Bay Area, and you know, the area that we were at, basically, you know, you have one freeway, and it's, you know, all the way from San Jose to Oakland, it's like city after city, so it's just like one big block of cities, and we were kind of right in the middle of all that. So you know, we didn't really get influenced too much by this city sound or that city sound or anything else. We just kind of did what sounded good to us, and we had a good little run, man. I mean, we really enjoyed doing what we were doing. You know, but even back then, there was always things inside of me when I would be making certain songs or when we would be doing certain things, and not having, I think, the direction, you know, a male direction that I should have had when I was younger. I was falling into a lot of the traps that you know, hip hop at that time was kind of portraying in music and entertainment. I know a lot of people get mad when, especially there used to be like an argument back in the day when people would say, well, there's a Terminator movie and they're violent, and, people don't take Terminator movies seriously because they know that it's entertainment, and people should just know that music is entertainment too. But, I used to fall for that, and now I tend to look at it a little bit different. I almost feel like music holds a lot more weight than movies do, because when you go watch a movie, what you're seeing is fake, it's entertainment. Movies can have can bring emotions out of us in certain ways, like any kind of art can. But I think music is just a totally different thing. You can see the Terminator in a movie, right? But you can't go touch the Terminator. You can't meet the Terminator in real life. Your favorite musical artist is a real person, and we tend to put more value on what songwriters or rappers or whatever you want to say are putting in their art because they're a real person. And also just the way that music affects us, you know what I mean? Like notes and chords, and the way we sample things, and the way we build emotions and tension off production, and the way we write, and the speed that we rap or sing, or all these things make a difference as far as how music can affect you. And so music is a different thing. Music is a different form of art. And I think anybody that's being honest with themselves, will admit that music can definitely affect the psyche of people much more than other forms of art or entertainment can. I was getting to a point where, some of the violence in hip hop and just in the sexual nature and everything, I just didn't feel right about it. I always feel like, since I was a kid, I always did have a little bit of a discernment in me of right and wrong. And I think most people do. And I think after we get to a certain age, those things are beaten out of us through society. Because society, we live in a worldly place, right? We live in a fallen place. God is not the ruler of this world. So although we come in innocent, we tend to get stomped down pretty quick as we get older. So I basically just told my buddy, I was like, look, man, I love doing music, this and that, but I just need to step back, and he was being my friend, respected that decision, and was like, hey man, whatever you need to do, it's all good. I'm going to go and continue with our other buddy and do the kind of group thing we were doing at the time. And they did really good with that. A couple years later, I got the bug again. So I did put out a project that did get a kind of little healthy buzz, at that time. I think it was a project that, although it did have some negative stuff on it, it did show a lot of growth. And I was talking about a lot of things that, I wanted to talk about that I thought were important. But at the same time, it had a current sound and was fresh at the time. And, it did good. It got a good response, and everybody that listened to it liked it. And that kind of gave me a little bit more confidence as far as, maybe I can kind of stick with doing the music thing, because it is a good outlet for me. And then I didn't do music for a long time. And I just kind of was like, I saw where it was going. And I think I saw it was especially bad when, and I especially got that discernment, those negative feelings about it when it was kind of moving out of just the violence and the sexual nature and everything into the spiritual nature of things. And I started noticing in videos that people were using a lot of symbolism, and this is when a lot of information started coming out on the internet, where people were things weren't as censored back then, so you could go on and you'd see a lot of stuff back then that you will not find now. People don't believe that information is being censored on the internet, but trust me, it is, because if you were around when things started out years ago, you would see that things you could come across back then will not come across now, especially on YouTube, because I think the video medium is such an influential, along with music, part of getting information out there with a lot of these just kind of independent researchers and people that would make these independent documentaries, which ended up being really good, were kind of opening people's eyes to things, and a lot of those that were out back then you cannot find now. I just was totally unenthused with it. I was just like, this is just not where I want to be right now, and if this is where music is going, it's not really something that I want to be a part of. And also at this time, I was growing, as a Christian a lot more. And, I believe that, Jesus chases all of us, you know what I mean? And it just depends on when you're gonna give your heart to him, when it's your time. But like children, we're stubborn, they say God is our Father. And if you view our relationship with God as we would have it with our own children, especially if you have a kid and you understand, they can throw tantrums, they can fight against you. After you repeatedly tell them not to do things, they're still going to do it anyway until they learn the hard way, right? If you understand that relationship, you understand our relationship with God is that we're always going to rebel a little bit. We're always going to be petulant children, but, he's always going to be looking out for us. And the minute when we become spiritually adults and spiritually understand what he wants for us, that's when we tend to grow and we get those gifts like discernment and being able to understand right and wrong in the world and what he truly gave us our individual talents for, because we're all different. I forgot exactly where it was. I think it may have been World Star or something like that, but I came across an artist by the name of Bizzle who was doing Christian music and did a response song to Jay-Z about one of his videos, which had a lot of symbolism in it. And I was kind of like, and I was a fan of Jay-Z, and I had nothing against Jay-Z, but it was just the way that he did the song. And I was aware that a lot of artists were using those type of symbology in their music and their videos. I was like, wow, I was kind of taken back. Like, here's a Christian artist that's actually really good, that can spit, and the production was good, and the delivery was good. And I was like, man, this is pretty impressive. I didn't really know that there was Christian artists out there. A lot of rappers talk about God, and it's funny, he actually has a verse, which I think is one of his best verses, where I don't know, I can't recall it verbatim, but the gist of it was that basically, every rapper has a song about God on their album, which is so true. All of them will say little things about God here and there. I have one song about God, which is like the last song on the album or whatever. And everybody says, oh man, that song is so deep. That song, man, you really got real on that song. Like, that's some real stuff, But if they really believed what they were saying, and of course we're all conflicted in nature, we're all human beings, but if they really were that invested in what they were saying, it wouldn't just be one song on the album. You know what I mean? Then I came across, No Malice, who was formerly Malice of the Clips, and he had 2 albums out at the time, and I caught wind of those. And then, hearing what he was talking about also, and his transformation, I believe he had a documentary out too. I was like, man, this is a lot more than what I expected from quote unquote Christian music. If I can be creative and make music and talk about what I really want to talk about and praise God at the same time, then man, that might be something to look into. Within the last year or so, I said, you know what, I'm going to dust off some of this equipment, and I started kind of experimenting with writing again and putting some beats together, and came out with a couple songs, and was really happy with it, you know what I mean? And it felt good in my soul about what I was doing, and it felt positive, and felt like, this is stuff that I can feel proud of putting out there to people. Now seeing how basically everybody's doing videos, and it was just a part of the entertainment and having to go with music that I never really jumped on. I was like, man, I need to start learning how to do videos, you know what I mean, and how to shoot and edit and do all that. And so Pray was the first song I did the video for, and I was pretty happy with the way it came out, and I think as I'm doing more songs, and visuals, that they're coming out better and better, and I feel like I'm the most creative I've ever been, the most energized. I feel like what I'm talking about is the most important, topics, especially in these days and times. It's just kind of like the planets aligned. I've always been somebody with a curious mind and kind of a researcher, and to be able to express a lot of those things, religiously, politically, just spiritually, about life in music, and put it out there and realize that there's people that are looking for those type of topics in music now is really refreshing, and it makes me more encouraged and more motivated to put out more material.